and welcome to another episode in our podcast series on everything products. Today's topic is the process of building successful AI products. My name is Rahul Garapaty, and I'm the Chief Business Officer for GS Lab, GAVS. We have with us two distinguished guests today. Dr. Venky Krishnaswamy, who was the founder and CEO of Koopid. That was an industry-leading AI-native contact center platform that was acquired by Dialpad in 2021, and Yogendra Jain, who is the CTO of Sonde. So thank you both for joining us, and I'd love to hear a little bit from both of you about your backgrounds and your journeys before we get started. Over to you first, maybe Yogendra, you want to speak a little bit about your background?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. Really appreciate it. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, started 4 companies, and they all have been in the digital signal processing space. And so we've been doing machine learning long before the word machine learning became popular. So I worked in the area of telehealth, medical electronics, telecommunication, intelligent assistance in both hardware, software, and firmware domains. Started my career at MIT Lincoln Labs, worked at Texas Instruments for a while before starting some of my companies. And I will try to bring some of my product experience to this podcast. Looking forward to it.
Thank you very much. And, I just want to add to your background there, Yogendra, is that you also have an MBA from Babson College as well, right? And I know that you're a serial entrepreneur. Would love to hear a little bit more about some of the products that you developed as we continue this discussion.
Sure.
Over to you, Dr. Venky.
Yeah, thank you, Rahul, and it's a great pleasure to be here on this distinguished podcast. My background, I have a long career background in very deep technical areas. I was a researcher for 25 years. And basically in the communications area and then eventually in the AI area, two of the areas that I've seen sort of life-changing innovations over the last 25 years or so. So I've been very fortunate. And so I'm really looking forward to a nice exchange of views here. I myself have a PhD in computer science. A lot of a body of work and research in the AI and communications areas, as I said, but I also have a practical background. I started a company, raised venture capital, built up a decent revenue stream, and eventually sold it to a marquee company in the space. So looking forward to bringing some of that experience to bear as we dive into this exciting topic.
Excellent. Thank you, Venky, and thank you, Yogendra. To start off this topic, I would like to ask each of you if you could, walk us through your process for developing an AI solution from concept to development. And I know both of you have extensive experience working on AI products throughout your careers. And maybe if I could start with you, Yogendra, and tell us a little bit about what Sonde does and your journey there and the way you have gone about developing this complex product over the years.
Sure. Sonde is based in Boston, Massachusetts, and what we're doing is with 30 seconds of voice, we're able to give or screen for respiratory risk, mental fitness, cognitive fitness, just by 30 seconds of voice. And the way that works is it takes about 100 muscles to produce our voice. And the brain thinks of the concept, it sends a signal to the muscles here and to our vocal cord. The air comes from the respiratory system, and that's how voice is generated. But if there's any anomaly in our brain or in our lungs, in our respiratory system, that's reflected in the voice. And so through a lot of ML AI work, we are trying to extract the signal for mental fitness, cognitive fitness, respiratory risk. So that's what we've been working on for the past 8 years. We've raised about $35 million. And it is probably one of the most difficult problems out there in healthcare to be able to do this. And if I can just, I'll just briefly summarize the journey we've taken to try to extract a signal. So as you can imagine, there are no algorithms to say, hey, this is a mental fitness signal that's coming from voice. So we had to first obviously start with a lot of data collection. So we collected about 1 million voice samples from 80,000 subjects in different languages and different geographical locations and accents. And we then spent a great deal of time labeling, obviously, those, but also cleaning them. And as you can imagine, and we had people hear every single audio and try to see the quality of the audio. In any case, after that, we started building models. And it was important to decide what cohorts to be used to train and to test. And that took a fair amount of energy. Building models was relatively easier. This other prep work, as we all know, takes up almost 80% of the energy. And as we were building these models, we had to think about how we're going to deploy this, how our partners are going to deploy this. And so we had to build a whole infrastructure around it, not just to showcase how our technology works. So we had to build a mobile app for Android and iOS, but we had to build SDKs and APIs for our partners to easily integrate this technology into their products. So in a nutshell, this is what the journey we've taken, and we'll be happy to go deeper into this as our discussion continues.
No, excellent. It sounds, quite fascinating. I mean, what the product does essentially is it's not focused on the content of the call itself, but more on the speech patterns.
Yes, Rahul, thank you for pointing that out. Super important that we're not listening to anybody's content. We don't, want to know that. We actually analyze the audio in near real time. It gets deleted immediately, and we're generating scores.
That's quite amazing. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. But Venky, you want to maybe, would love to also hear a little bit more about, your journey with Koopid and how, how you went out and we, developed that product. I do want to mention out here that you have a very extensive background in AI. You have over 50 patents. You're also the recipient of the Thomas Edison Award for pioneering use of AI in unified communications. And I know that you brought a lot of that experience to bear when building your product at Koopid. Love to hear a little bit more about that journey.
Yeah, thanks for queuing that up. So the problem that we attacked, and which is still very much current in the industry, by the way, is of customer experience and contact center efficiency. So there's kind of historically been a trade-off in the contact center. I mean, contact center essentially is about problem solving for the most part. So customers who have issues call in and they have to be handled by an agent. So there's a cost on the serving side to that agent's kind of time, their training, and all of that in solving the problem. And there is kind of a benefit to solving that problem well for the business in leaving a customer happy and basically motivated to do business in a continued way, right? So you have to balance the experience that you deliver with the cost of delivering that experience, and and make sure that you do the best you can on both fronts. And historically, companies have kind of more erred on the side of the cost. Hence, you've seen things like outsourcing and IVRs and so on. And the customer experience has kind of suffered over the ages. So what we set out to do was to kind of pivot to the opposite point of view. The point being that if you deliver a great customer experience, then the benefits flow from that. And what we were in fact able to demonstrate that is that if you bring the right technology and the right approach to bear, you can actually optimize both. You can dramatically improve customer experience while delivering the service at a better cost. And the core of the theory there, or the practice there, is that AI kind of delivers broadly two kinds of benefits. One is automation, which is kind of can you remove the need for a problem to be solved by a human? Can you solve it automatically using software, right? So a customer calls in, you recognize what their problem is, you can triage it well, you can find the solution, you can deliver the solution, all without touching a human being. So that's kind of one type of goal. The other type of goal is, for whatever reason, whether it's, you cannot deliver that level of automation, or in fact, for experience, it's better for the user to be able to talk to an actual human being, to feel the empathy of a human being. So in that case, what you want to do is to use AI to enable that agent to do the best they can. So give them best-in-time information, just-in-time coaching, the right kind of tools, at their fingertips, and so on. So, that is kind of like the holistic approach to applying AI in this space. And I believe that's actually a good template to think about AI productization in many, many disciplines, which is, can you do things in an automated fashion better than any human can execute? And in cases where you need the human because of their various abilities, like judgment or intuition, or even just the empathy, then can you use the technology to supercharge the powers of that human being? So that's kind of like, I think, the core kind of framing of how AI can benefit many, many types of use cases. And in customer service, that's how we approached it.
Thank you, Venky, for that. Appreciate your the insight into how you went about that journey in building Koopid. Yogendra, I want to turn to you, for a minute, and want to hear a little bit more about the product evolution within Sonde. And what is particularly fascinating here is that this is I'm assuming more of a layered solution, which with increasing complexity as you kept building more and more models. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and how this evolved. How do you go about designing and executing on a product like this?
Yes, the complexity almost seems to grow exponentially every year on these products as more and more models are tried out, and also as we collect more and more data, right? So we collect more data, and now we want to try different cohorts, and now we want to update these models, and now we have to get our customers to update the models. And so the complexity sort of flows throughout not only the development process, but also customer deployment process. So we have to be super careful to see if the new models are really, are they just incrementally better or significantly better to improve the user experience? As Venky said, it's about the customer experience and the user experience. So that sort of factors in our decision. But as always, we're trying to improve our model. In our case, it's accuracy. How accurate are we in measuring cognitive fitness? How accurate are we in measuring mental fitness? And the problem is, we're not a diagnostic tool. We are a screening tool. And therefore, we don't strive to come close to 99% or something. We're really happy even when we get to 70% or so in accuracy, right? And then we have to also make sure that our customer understands with that screening that our ML AI algorithms are doing, our models are doing, what they need to do after that once we do give them a score. Because we do know that we'll get it right most of the time, but at other times it may be not correct, right? And therefore, for example, if let's say we were to give a score on a person's suicidal ideation, we'll get it right most of the time, but the times we get it wrong, we could have someone take a spin in the wrong direction. And therefore, we don't even expose those scores or values, right? So we have to be very careful that the output of these models and how we frame it to the end users or to our partners, which will then they will frame it for their end users, is done in a very responsible, careful, ethical way. And at the same time, there's a whole privacy issue. And that's the reason why we don't collect any audio or we don't listen to any of the content. And so the complexity also then increases when you have, we could have just focused on one category, mental fitness. But we felt that there were adjacent categories that had to be addressed to paint a more complete picture for our partners to build this and to monetize this and to integrate it to their application to add stronger value. And so that adds to more complexity as well. And now the question comes up with multiple scores and vocal biomarkers. How do our partners display them to their customers? How do they socialize this? What kind of action and behavior change that we're expecting from the end users? So I just want to share a little bit of complexity. And obviously, the other thing is the data grows exponentially too. And the cohorts that we build, which ones to use, which ones not to use, all these things add up as well.
No, thank you. Thank you for elaborating on that, Yogendra. And I have a similar question for you, Venky. Although, based on your earlier response, it sounded like a lot of the solutions or models that you were probably, in your platform would have probably been more discrete solutions. Or am I wrong? I mean, are they also layered on top of each other and with increasing complexity as you continue to build?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in fact, I want to kind of build on, I think, a key theme I think Yogendra laid out, which is, the increasing sophistication of the technology versus the inherent unpredictability of human experience and expectation, right? So, and that's a constant tussle between the two. So, for example, in what we were doing, the emerging stack, right? I mean, a lot of fantastic work has gone on in the last, decade in the field of AI. And so the canonical stack that's evolved is get as much data as you can, do a great job of labeling it, categorizing it, cleaning it, and so on. And then iteratively develop better and better models with more and more parameters and so on. And if you do that, then the AI will kind of learn how to handle use cases by itself, right? I mean, that's kind of like the magic of AI that's been promised, and in many cases, it actually delivers beyond our wildest expectations. Except when the AI runs into, the human, and as long as the AI doesn't promise anything, it's easy enough to keep people happy because they can, it'll be a curiosity, if it's not useful. But if the AI is kind of like a tool, especially if it's a mission critical tool or, something that's critical to sort of health or life or other issues, then, there is actually a huge slippery slope between the promise of AI and, and a human's perception of satisfaction, right? So and that is what we were constantly wrestling with. I mean, we had really good models. We had great customer call examples. We had really good automation flows and so on. But more often than we were expecting, we would run into situations that we simply did not anticipate. So, for example, I mean, you think, let's say you're implementing a system in a retail call center for product returns, right? You would think that kind of flow is fairly, it can be templatized, or you can think of all the variations. So when somebody calls to return a product from a catalog of, let's say, 10 products, you can kind of think through all the workflows that are needed to take care of that automatically in most cases, right? What we did not anticipate, is just the variety in which people who approach that from an inbound side. So we listened to a call where a guy was unhappy with the product that he bought, but it took him like 6 minutes to get there. And the first 5 minutes was all about how he was visiting his daughter, and his son was in a different town, and the package that he ordered went to his house, and they had to kind of make an urgent call to figure out how to get it redelivered and all of that. That's the preamble to him opening the box, plugging it in, and that doesn't work, right? The real problem is that it's not working, but the context is how he even got hold of the product. And how do you handle that from an AI point of view? Because if it's just technology listening to that call, it's looking for problem in those first 5 minutes of context setting, right? And trying to see what it can help with when the help is not needed there, right? So that is kind of the inherent challenge of bringing AI to practice. I heard a fabulous description recently in the Gen AI space, which is that there's this word called hallucination, right? Which is that if you build a lot, if you throw a lot of data at AI, it'll generate an answer, and it doesn't know how to distinguish, what's true from not. So it generates what's called a hallucination, which is beautifully constructed, except that it's something that may not be true, right? I've read somebody saying that's not hallucination, that's bullshitting. It's bullshitting because the AI is not telling you an untruth on purpose. The AI simply doesn't care if it's telling you the truth or not. All it cares about is whether the model that's been used to generate it is consistent with the output that it's generating, and is it well formed, right? So that is the problem with bringing AI to bear, and that's why I think that is, the biggest challenges going forward will be to narrow that gap between the incredible capability of the technology and the fundamental unpredictableness of the human experience that it's trying to solve.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Venky. And no, that's excellent. I don't know, Yogendra, do you have any thoughts or comments on that? Yeah.
No, I mean, we are constantly vigilant about our models overfitting, right? I mean, that's the problem. That's another way to look at the problem, right? Or where, let's say we build a population model and some other language that may have a completely different pitch level will give a very different score. And so we have to be very careful what we promise our partners, which languages have we tested and trained on, which are included in our population model. And now we're actually moving towards a more personalized model. So as we collect our partners, our users' scores, we're not collecting voice, we're not storing those. Over time, we see trends in their scores, in their mental fitness scores, in their cognitive fitness scores. And now we're trying to figure out, based on these trends, what is happening to their health, right? And one of the challenges we're running into is that, do we analyze these trends using, some kind of a model that we build? Or do we just use some logic to say, hey, this is trending up, this is trending down. Over the last 4 weeks, you've had this. And we even tried to use, we're doing proof of concepts. And that's sort of a big thing, what we do also, spend a lot of energy doing proof of concepts. And so we tried with OpenAI. We even send images to it of the trends, and it's able to give, pretty interesting insight that we would not have thought about or we would not have seen. And so we're debating as to, do we use some kind of a trending tool, AI tool, or do we build our own logic, right? And so this is, I think, going to be a constant struggle until we really understand what's happening inside, what's sort of good results, what are not good results, this hallucination thing or bullshitting thing. And it's going to take a lot of experimentation. So we haven't solved that, and but we're facing it.
No, absolutely well said. In fact, I think one of my, the questions was going to be around how do you balance, sort of research and practical applications in the development process. And I think both of you already touched upon that with the examples that you gave. The other aspect I wanted to ask about was a little bit more of the, on the operations side. Want to hear from each one of you, what are some of the challenges that you faced while building and operationalizing these solutions? If you can talk a little bit more about, the time, things like the time and resource constraints or the development cycles and the backlog of features, because clearly, given the complexity and the volume of the solutions that you guys, the models that you guys were both building, I'm sure you, ran into this classic problem of prioritization, and how did you accelerate the development of your solution and overcome these challenges? So Yogendra, maybe you want to talk.
Yeah, I'd be happy to start. It almost seems you have to have two different companies. One is to build the models, right? Well, almost three, like one to collect the data, right? Because that's a huge effort. Clean it, get it ready, do some preliminary analytics on it. Second group is for building the models, right? Testing it and building it and iterating on it. And the third is, Rahul, as you asked, about operationalizing it, right? Yeah. And so in our particular case, obviously, before, to operationalize it, you have to think, who's your audience? Well, in our case, our audience are our customers, developers who are developing, their product managers and their management team. And then they integrate our vocal biomarkers into their products. And then they offer that to their customers through a mobile app. It could be through a smart speaker. It could be through, the earbuds. And so we have to think through how are their developers going to bring this to the market or the product people. And especially in our case, this has never been done before. So we have another set of challenges because nobody has added vocal biomarkers to their products. To operationalize it, what we had to do is we had to build a showcase app, almost like an app that we would take to the end consumers. So we can do a showcase of our technology of how vocal biomarkers work in real life, and had thousands and thousands of people try it out. In fact, to the point where a lot of our partners are saying, hey, can we OEM this application from you? Number one. Number two, we had to spend a great deal of time documenting the vocal biomarkers and how they get used in APIs and SDKs. And we had to build, and we had to give them source code, because this also involves acquisition of audio and high quality audio and so on. And then after so let's say we get over those hurdles, they've integrated in their app, but even when they integrate in the app, we have to do a lot of hand-holding, not because there's some issues with them, but just because they've never seen this before, on what is the best experience to get the end users to give a voice sample. Mm-hmm. And after that, we do short pilots. And when we collect that audio, we do a lot of analysis on that audio to make sure that the audio link isn't broken. And because any artifacts, as you know, Venky and Rahul, that get in there could significantly hurt our scoring accuracy. And so we have to do a lot of analysis and what we call validation, and we spend a fair amount of energy in validating our partners' implementation. And then when our partners can launch. So operationalizing it almost takes as much energy, if not more, than building the models and collecting the data.
Well said, Yogendra. And Venky, I have the same question for you. I mean, what are your views on this and the challenges that you faced, how you overcame that?
Yeah, no, it's very analogous to how Yogendra described it. The exciting part of the AI is the modeling, right? And that's where the scientists can get really excited. And in my experience, the excited scientists, you want to have a few of them, but you don't want to have too many because they don't want to get in front of your customers. They don't want to deal with cleaning data and all of that, the low end stuff. They want to do the exciting stuff, right? And that's it's needed technology, but it's by no means the whole picture, right? I mean, so in terms of operationalizing AI, I'm going to kind of look at it from what are some practical things a company can do to make it more feasible, based on my experience, right? For example, acquisition, cleaning, and making data ready for AI, huge problem, right? Because, I mean, we've already established the more data, the better. And, the more the data there is, the more, quickly it streams in, there's more stress on all of that pipeline activity. And so having a good process to do that is extremely critical. And good process means good tools, but more importantly, a proficient workforce who's willing to take on that low end task of just looking at data and kind of wiping the dust from it and making comments on it, right? Which is essentially what labeling is. So and figuring out how to do that economically is kind of the challenge for the industry. I mean, with OpenAI and all these big models, it's cool because the whole internet is kind of annotating their pictures and songs on YouTube and all that. But if you're an enterprise and you want to build a model based on proprietary data, you don't have any help like that. So one of the things I think it's very critical to think about is, can you outsource that to somebody who can do it at the right economics, right? So that's one part of the problem. The second part is the modeling, and of course, data scientists love to go to town on that, but there's at this point in time, I don't know that there are enough skilled data scientists for everybody to hire at an economical rate, right? So you have to figure out how to bring in sort of top quality data science into your pipeline without breaking the bank, because at the end of the day, I mean, this has to be affordable as well. So that's another, so tools are getting better over there, and and large language models and things like that are taking away some of the burden of data science, because the models are themselves inherently much smarter, but bringing it into your domain is something that you need to master, right? And then the final part, which is putting it into production, putting it in front of your customers or your users, the critical step, the absolute critical step, is to build in a feedback loop. You don't want the bad outcomes to go there without you being aware of it, without a mitigation strategy, without because the damage they can do to your user base can be enormous. So you need to put in that feedback loop right at the start of production, so that you're monitoring what the AI is doing. You're applying metrics to its just like customer satisfaction on a call, you have to be able to measure the effectiveness of AI outcomes that are being consumed by humans, and have a process in place to continuously iterate, fix your models, fix data, and sort of tweak your use cases. And that is kind of more a continuous practice. It's not a one and done. And that's another area I feel that a company needs to really very thoughtfully think about their ML or AI ops practice. And not a bad idea to enroll an expert, some expert help from outside of your shop to be able to execute that part of the cycle as well.
No, thanks, Venky. In fact, you addressed one of the aspects questions that I was going to bring up is what would you look for in a services partner in to help you accelerate your AI initiatives? And I think you covered that. So it's not just essentially what you're saying is it's not necessarily just someone to come in and help you help the data scientists with the more mundane tasks, but potentially also accelerate the development, bring in more horsepower into the data science itself, because there's only so many resources out there. So Yogendra, I want to ask you the same question as well, which is what are some of the aspects that you look for in a outsourcing partner in helping you accelerate your AI initiatives? So with it, Venky talked a little bit about bringing more horsepower, helping with the data labeling and other mundane tasks, etc. Perhaps also with MLOps and so on. So are there some aspects here that you can potentially elaborate on?
We could not have accomplished what we have accomplished so far without the partnership with GS Lab Gavs. From day one, actually, when we started building and operationalizing our infrastructure, we partnered with them. And the first thing that we did was to build a complete backend, a secure backend, where as the audio passes, a lot of the research and the million audio samples that we collected had to be stored securely, had to be processed securely. And whatever was collected in a particular country stayed in that country. At the same time, our researchers needed access to that, but they could not bring it to their particular country. So building that infrastructure required huge amount of expertise in not only infrastructure, but front-end, back-end software. Then we needed to build mobile apps to collect the audio in the field. And for that, we needed front-end developers, we needed DevOps people. So it's hard for a startup to have, 10 different different types of expertise, domains, discipline domains. And having a partner like GS Lab Gavs allows us the flexibility to be able to have these people work with us, have these experts work with us, and to deliver product at a pretty fast pace, not only to collect data, but also to operationalize it and to get our partners in the market.
Excellent. Thank you there, Yogendra. So Venky, can you talk a little bit about your partnership with GS Lab and how they helped you in the product development process?
Yeah, absolutely, Rahul. We were a very small startup operating on like all early stage startups with far less resources than our dreams needed, right? So, and it was best for us to allocate our resources in like core product building and and sort of core technology and so on. But but you cannot just throw technology out there. I mean, it has to be validated, tested, and sort of finished to some extent before you get it out there in front of your customers. Even if for an early stage startup, some of that burden may be arguably a little less. So where our partnership with GS Lab was absolutely invaluable was in making that process of testing and finishing very, very efficient, because of because the nature of the team that we had working with us. We had 24/7 coverage. We had the right kind of skills coming in and out of the project, as different needs arose. And plus, the specialty skills that the GS Lab team brought, because they do this for many companies. And we didn't have the bandwidth to acquire that expertise for ourselves in being able to kind of design the right test cases, to the right mitigations and so on. So it was really invaluable to have that aspect of extending both the intellectual horsepower of the team and just the sheer ability to get things done with speed and efficiency. So that's something that I'll always be grateful for.
Thank you very much for that, Venky.